Nous allons à présent continuer avec la table ronde suivante, la session anglaise. Nous allons parler du vue d'ensemble de l'IA en Afrique. Wilema Girard, bonjour madame. Voilà. Et Imen, bonjour aussi.
Bonjour.
En ligne avec nous. Merci de rester en ligne avec nous. Nous vous remercions encore pour votre patience et puis votre disponibilité. Voilà. Cette session elle sera exclusivement en anglais. Et I think that we can continue with you. The overview of the intelligence in Africa. How can we use it to improve education or over domain that can be used to help us to get the importance of artificial intelligence. Thank you. Okay, now, Girard Wilema, you have the speech to continue with this
Hello.
session. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you, Imen. Okay, so welcome to our roundtable number 5, and it will be in English. So I put some recommendation on the chat book, if you can read it, just to make sure that we can follow together how it will work. So this session is in English, and we will talk about some aspect that was already taken in the other table in French. And today with our speaker, we will look at this from an overall perspective. And I hope that our expert and guests will be able to provide you with some perspective, look at the key challenge, and also some opportunities that we may have with the integration of AI in Africa. So before we start, I will ask and put the list of all the guests, but I don't know if you are all of them all already there. So I will start. We were supposed to have 2 guests. I'm not sure that you are all there. So let's take 2 minutes by speaker just to give a brief introduction about yourself and your location. So let me start with, let me see, Dawn Christie, I think. Can you unmute yourself and give just a brief introduction before we start?
Certainly. Hi, everyone. I'm Dawn Christie. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, in the U.S. It's 8 a.m. here, Central Time. I appreciate being invited to contribute today. I am the CEO and founder of the CyberDawn, a small business that helps small businesses understand cyber risk and helps their employees to be more cyber secure. I've also got over 20 years of experience in cyber risk transfer in the insurance and reinsurance industry, working on complex claims. This year, I've published a book on cybersecurity, and I've taken some advanced courses in cyber leadership. I think AI combining with cybersecurity is a very timely topic, and so I'm happy to contribute today. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Welcome. So let's move to Iman. Iman, is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, it's correct. It's perfect. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon for people overseas. Here, Iman Amr. I'm talking today from Boston, so Eastern time, and for me it's 9 a.m. I have been connected with you since the very early morning, and I'm delighted to be part of this roundtable. So my specialty is in technology, policy, and AI governance. I'm also founders of like an innovation center back in Tunisia, which is my home country. And here in Boston, I'm also serving as consultant for different organizations. And I'm a professor at Holt International Business School in charge of innovation. and leading the incubator in there. I'm delighted to discuss today the use of AI and how it can promote Africa, and with a focus on the governance aspect of it and sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Iman. So we will move to Mohamed Kante. Just a brief introduction about yourself, where you come from, and your location.
Sure. Mohamed Kante. I am currently in an airport in Singapore, getting ready to go to Boston. So, Iman, I hope to meet you at some point. That's where I reside. I reside in Boston. And I mentioned the current situation because in an airport, it's very possible that while I'm speaking, you hear some noises. So I apologize ahead of time. The time now is 9 p.m., so the opposite of where you are, 12 hours away. I am a technologist, electrical engineer by training, but currently a technologist at Dell Technologies. So meaning that we look at new technologies like AIs and blockchain and provide some sort of strategies for the different business units within Dell. And I am honored to be part of this panel, and I look forward to sharing my knowledge and perspective on how we as Africa could leverage artificial intelligence to move forward and make positive impact.
Okay, thank you, Mohamed. In the list, we do have Dr. Rashes. I don't know if you are online. No. Ali Kalan. Okay. So, knowing that you are at the airport, Mohamed, you were supposed to provide a short introduction before we go to the question. So, if you don't mind, please feel free to give us some overview about the key challenges that you can see in Africa, as well as some opportunity.
All right. So I'm the lucky one, right? So, okay. First, I think the key challenges, I'm going to go just with two. There are many, but the key challenges, the first one would be lack of data. Because when you talk about artificial intelligence, you got to be something that you manipulate to provide some sort of insight, right?
Excuse me, Mohamed. I need to stop you for a moment because I've been informed that we have Mrs. Our Excellence from US there on the phone, and I would like to give her some time also to introduce, if you don't mind. Is that okay for you? And we also have Miss Mbaranga. I'm not sure that I'm pronouncing well the name, sorry for that. So if you don't mind, Miss Rashna, can you just give us some update and present yourself to the panel as well? No? Maybe Miss Mbaranga, you want just to share with our people?
Ms.
Yes?
My name is Ben Kruger. I just wanted to say a word. I work with Ambassador Koronen, and I'm on the call as well. She's having a little bit of connectivity problems, so we apologize for that, but hope to be on shortly. So thank you again. We're thrilled with the invitation, and the ambassador is hoping to connect. So bear with us, but thank you again for the invitation on behalf of Ambassador Koronen.
Thank you, Benjamin. And just being us, we will stop at this moment. And maybe we have Miss Mbaranga on the line if she wants to say some few words to everyone.
I guess it's easy to pronounce Baranga. It's easy, right?
No, not for me. I'm sorry. And I didn't say that I came from Switzerland. I'm French and English.
No worries.
I did not know how to pronounce some names sometimes. So
No, really delighted to follow all this summit. Is amazing. And since yesterday we follow, I followed some session today on education and agriculture and environment. It's amazing really how many knowledge and the experts are exposing their knowledge in this summit. Again, Congratulations to the organizer, Amadou and his team, and all of you who really responded present to participate in this session. I think one key point we want really to see, at least my side, to see what will be the outcome, because I'm just thinking about the outcome of this summit. It's not going to be just an event. It has to be something to follow. It is something which can be successful and really promote Africa. It's not promoting Africa, it's like how African countries can just be aware that this AI is there and is advancing very quickly in other spheres, and how can we benefit from that. Many people are talking about data. Many people are talking about technology access. Many people are talking about, a lot of challenges. But I do think I was listening to all of you, I just feel like we have a fantastic opportunity to have large diaspora working everywhere and working in the field of technology. Mohammed just starting saying something, and then I really want to follow you, Mohammed, what you're saying. And very good that you are going to meet Imed in Boston, and you're going to meet a big community. So it's already a network. Network is created already. Nobody knew who's who, but who's who now is there. And I think that will be a fantastic opportunity to continue to support the Cluster Digital for Africa, to really initiate and continue to have this session, but in a very structured way. And I do think that's really the first outcome I'm just really thinking of. The second one is like, when you start something, definitely you think about success already. You don't look at the challenges. Many people think that, if I initiate something, I'm gonna need the resources, I'm gonna need the financial support and so on. But Amadou demonstrated us yesterday that he didn't run for asking money from the donors or whatever to organize this session. It's just virtual, and people just connect and then follow this and exchange. So this is a revolution in my view. So I do really want to continue to support this initiative. It's not an initiative, it's just something big for Africa. In one way, we continue to support it, but also lastly, is in a role as the president of honor and other people or governance of this cluster, is also how to continue to sensitize the member state in Africa. Because the people talk about infrastructure, people talk investment, how you really make it happen and have this collaboration between the public sector, private, and academia. Thank you so much again, and following you. Looking forward to hearing.
Thank you so much. And I think we will try to address some of your questions. I also followed the 2 days session, so I heard a lot. I can see also that there is also a lot of initiative taken by people without investment from the public or the politic. So also maybe we can think about how can we innovate in a sustainable way. But I'm not the expert today, so I will move on and come back to Mohamed. If you mind, can you just present your opinion and what you think about the current challenge, and also talk a bit about the opportunity, please.
All right, so let's give it a shot one more time. So hope the last time, if the speaker speak, it's not my fault this time. So I was mentioning I think some of the biggest challenges in terms of AI in Africa is because what I call dead data, right? Because we do have a lot of data, obviously, as long as people are exchanging information and they're living somewhere, there is some sort of data. But then we are not efficient capturing it, right? And anybody who talks about AI has to talk about some sort of data to be involved in there. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we need to overcome. There are so many ways to go about that, but I'm going to list the challenge and then hopefully share some of my thought on the opportunity that those challenges bring.
Mhm.
And a big one as well is that artificial intelligence tend to be grossly misunderstood by Africans in general. I mean, I'm focusing on Africa right now. I know it's true for other parts, but I do know that it's grossly misunderstood. And typically, when I talk about AI, I mentioned that it's a multi-purpose tool, and it's a collection of tools that include supervised learning, Gen AI or generative AI, unsupervised learning, and some sort of reinforcement learning. And I'm listing this is because most of us, when we speak about AI today, we talk about Gen AI, or also known as generative AI. And that was by the advent of ChatGPT that made it readily accessible for the mass. So now everybody's like, hey, I got to get on the bandwagon. But, we should also understand it's a collection that Gen AI is a smaller portion, because I do believe and understand that supervised learning or labeling things is the biggest opportunity. And when I say biggest opportunity, I'm talking about whether it's startup or just improving our life in general. Because if AI doesn't do that, I don't think it's doing what it's meant to do, right? Now, in terms of the opportunities, I think startup I just mentioned. So the startup environment, educating them about what it is, because so many businesses have been created from that, and I do know that there are many, many, many more, right? And in terms of the opportunity for the lack of access to dead data, right? Data that we cannot use, I'm just calling it dead data, is the opportunity is all the companies that are adding some sort of IoT, Internet of Things, or finding a way to capture the data. Then now you're gonna see, once the data is captured, then I mentioned that supervised learning is a great opportunity. That you could also refer to that as labeling things, right? So once you have the picture of a cow, right, or pizza, right, somebody needs to be able to be there to label it. This is pizza, and then pizza with pepperoni, or beef, or whatever the case is. So those labeling creates great opportunity. If we can understand what it is, we'll be able to, leverage that and create opportunities to make our lives better in Africa. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to get too much in depth, and there's more questions.
That's fine. We have some few questions that we would like to address to go beyond data, please. I'm not from IT, but I'm more looking from human and education and people and healthcare system, things like that. So we will go beyond, if you don't mind, and then you can go deeper with some of the questions. So let's start with the first question, and I will turn directly to our ladies. You are the only one men this afternoon, so please excuse me, but just give some time to our lady to address some of the questions. The first question that we have, it's from your expertise and from what you have learned from yesterday and all the things that was shared by the other speaker. What are the main areas where you see that AI can contribute to develop Africa? And I will turn to Christy. I didn't know you, so you will be the first one. Please, what is your opinion? What do you think about this?
Yeah, it's an interesting time because in many of the speakers yesterday and today have pointed out, since you raised the issue of the ladies going first, I mean, you've got, the implications for national policy, which is being addressed pretty thoroughly. And then you also have sort of the gender equality issues, since you brought up gender, and the bias issues that have to be addressed. So it's really, just as in the cybersecurity area, the development is a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, you've got progress and some of the points that were raised about data and improvement, but you also have to be very mindful of what we're seeing globally with development feeding the data into the LLMs, for example, and the possibility of bias, race and gender inequality, and those sorts of things. So there really is a thread of due diligence that has to go with development in Africa just as globally. And I think that's probably the first point that I would make about it, is to be mindful of the risks that go parallel to the development, especially because you have so many opportunities before you. But keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you, Christy. Let's move to Iman. What do you think about this?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll start with a positive note about artificial intelligence for Africa and how it could lead development. So there are several areas that have been discussed eventually, but artificial intelligence today could represent a way to overcome some infrastructure challenges or like some of the gaps that are present in heavy industries or other ways for to work on in Africa. Besides that, there is a lot of room for developing some new services at the startup level or at maybe the smaller size businesses with a focus on either education, healthcare, or agricultures, the things that we have addressed essentially, and where we have some spin-off happening, and we could leverage that, which will enhance the social and economic peace within the region and would provide new ways of exploring the technology that doesn't necessarily rely on heavy dependency of classic infrastructure, not the technology infrastructure, but the classic infrastructure. In terms of awareness and risk to be considered here in terms of overview, definitely here I will second Christy in terms of the cybersecurity aspects and the biases that could be generated. Yesterday we had a great discussion about the essential of the cyber resilience, both at the technology level, but also in terms of people readiness and how they could be trained into how to protect their data. And to connect back to an essential point that Mohammed has addressed, which is we will be using data whenever we have artificial intelligence, and whether it's little data or big data, right? And the key to it is to use unbiased data, or to try to have as much as possible unbiased data. And that could also start by actually collecting the data itself, having clear processes, having a clear mechanism to collect the data with trustworthy groups, etc. And then we could use this in the different disciplines. So this will essentially help address the issue, but definitely artificial intelligence could be a way to regenerate profit, regenerate also social and economic development within the region, and maybe it could be the new way of leading even in the aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Iman. So, Mohamed, maybe you want to add or adjust now what you think about how AI can contribute to develop for the development of African country.
So I think it could provide an opportunity for us to have a stronger middle class, right? Explicitly by providing opportunity for most people to become entrepreneurs, right? I mentioned the entrepreneurial opportunity because that's an area where I leaned in a lot, in terms of creation of opportunity. So let's look at if an entrepreneur were to create some sort of no-code opportunity for those to make the loan at a bank or I mean, the playing field is practically empty in terms of opportunity with AI in Africa. So somebody could just sit there and say, hey, by the way, instead of everybody going to the markets, how about I provide some sort of program that's gonna help you see, hey, this is the best time to go, this is the best shop to go, or this has the cheapest. But again, that requires data, right? I do agree with the fact that it has to be unbiased, although those unbiased data tend to be a little more pertinent when we talk about face recognitions and things like that. But I think we need data in the beginning.
Okay, I will just stop again. I'm not an IT person, but my background is in healthcare. Okay, so when you talk about collecting data, what kind of data are you looking for, and where they will come from? Because in clinical research, the gap that I see is that the community is not represented. Female or Black people are underrepresented. So when you talk about collecting data, what do you have in mind? Just give me a few words about this.
So let's go with the example of somebody wanting to or providing the opportunity for banks to improve a way to get in and out faster. Okay, a bank is able to capture when people come, how often they come, what do they do when they're there, and how long they're there when they're there, right? So once you have those information, then now you can have some sort of data processing in the background, right? And then provide you with the best solution for you to have shorter line, because longer line means more annoyed employees. It means, I mean, not employees, more annoyed customers rather. And then those customers could potentially leave to go somewhere else, right? This is just an example of saying, for them to have those right now, if you go to a bank, I haven't been in many countries in Africa, but the ones that I've been to, if you go to a bank, chances are it's a paper type of sign-in, or you take a ticket and sit down, right? So that is not captured, and that cannot be, that's not useful for artificial intelligence. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does, but so, let's take, because we have a question about ethical and legal aspects, where we can also look at this. As a consumer, I will say I will be afraid to provide my data, and then that it will be used, to in a bad way, to analyze my how I consume, where I come from, especially when you talk about my money, what what I'm doing with my money, all these things. How can we protect people about this? But it will be for later. We will move to the second question, and we will come back to this topic, if you don't mind, in a moment. Thank you. So, question 2, it's about from your area, really, because we have different kind of expertise. Can you share with us a concrete example of a project, a successful story that maybe you know or you are working on, and you can share with us some of those stories where it takes place in Africa and work for African people? Can we start with Christy?
I think that sort of the movement when you're looking at the financial sector, improving digital literacy, which is definitely underway. We talked about earlier, the paper and waiting in lines and that sort of things, but the idea of doing everything through apps and mobile is really the wave of the future and catching on in Africa. So I think this idea of the improving of digital literacy, which is just so crucial for that. There's also, when you talk about data, and I tend to lean towards risk and security issues. That's just how I'm wired. But if you think about what you talked about, protecting your data and your finances and your bank account, there's a cost in protecting data. So if you have prompts to update your security on your phone, for example, if you're using a mobile banking app and you don't do that, then you're giving vulnerabilities for people to possibly hack your account. So there's a cost involved in protecting your data. So that goes within the whole umbrella of digital literacy. And I think the movement to improve that in Africa is an important one, because one is to understand how things are set up, and the other is to understand that you need to update your security when you're prompted to do that, so that you don't actually risk the funds in your account. So I think that's a big improvement that's going on currently.
Thank you, Christy. Iman, from your side, do you have any example, successful story that you can share with us, that you know, that maybe you have led or you are currently leading in Africa, where you can show the efficacy?
Yeah, so thank you very much. So there are a few initiatives happening right now in collaborations between the US and Africa. It's essentially based on people effort, not government efforts or others, just to clarify that aspect. It's essentially diaspora people or organizations that were previously based in Africa, and then they have expanded to the market. But let me take a step back first to share some of the key success elements that I have been working on, and how we could leverage this in Africa, right? So I specialize essentially on AI governance, right? And AI governance is part of corporate governance, where we really look into how we are doing things, who is doing what, when, and where, which is essentially looking at the accountability and helping optimize the processes, and having an alignment between stakeholders' needs and all the expectations from the different actors, while we are working towards the goals. And here, they are very simple algorithms that could be used. And to Muhammad's point, they don't need to be generative AI. It could be as simple as supervised or unsupervised learning. And to make this term very simple and specific to our use case today. So whether it's supervised or unsupervised, that would depend on the nature of the data collected. And by data, it could be any like entry point, whether it's a name, color of hair, it could be the age of a patient, since you are in healthcare, or if we were about to optimize a process for a hospital, for instance. And there are a few initiatives that we were working on in Tunisia, since that's my home country originally, to optimize how we would get a better patient experience, right? So the patient essentially would need to consent to sharing some data. And these data could be as simple as who they are, where they work, the locations, the date of birth, etc. And they would be aware of that, right? And then there is the medical records that we need consent of. But then these will be digitized, which is the first step. The next step would be looking at what are a classic workflow for it. So the different steps they would go through, and then here where we could use our artificial intelligence algorithms, both the supervised and unsupervised, and we could lead either for first step diagnosis, so we could eliminate some key problems, maybe based on previous patients that we have seen. There is an effort now happening with AI for All, or AI for Health by the United Nations and WHO as well, and it's a worldwide effort. So that's another good example into how this would work. And then to get to the point of the IT governance with AI, so once we have all of these framed and clarified, we could train then the data to get better results. Now, this does not exclude the human effort. So we would still need the healthcare providers, we still need the paramedical people and everyone that is involved. And this is just for one use case, right? But we will be like helping or optimizing their day-to-day and providing better results. And for an optimal experience, right? There is a key part that is related to what Christy has mentioned earlier, which is the digital literacy. So we need to train our people, explain how this would be working, what it means, and how we could reach these different milestones. But because that is crucial. So it's two interdependent parts that we could continue to use, but they would require that first point about the digital literacy. So this is just one example. I do have others, but I want to be also conscious of all the timing. So I will be developing more in the next questions.
Okay, thank you, Imen. Mohamed, do you want to add something, some examples of success stories that you will share with us?
Sure. I'm always going to come in from the perspective of entrepreneurship because that's an area that I'm quite excited about. So I would say an example that I've seen and that got me quite excited is using AI to, for farming, right, to improve farming. And there is, I don't know if this is a Senegalese company, but what they do is they remotely sense some biophysical parameter of the ground, and then they go through all the historical production of maps and then use machine learning to predict the possible or the best possible growing conditions, right? When you look at something like that, you would know that, for some reason, I don't even, I'm not really comfortable in French, but the word is coming to me in French, so I'm going to say autosuffisance alimentaire. And I think it's really going to bring us that opportunity. So the opportunity of those, going through the data and labeling it, the opportunity of using machine learning to, understand those images and provide the suggestions, and also the opportunities for farmers to provide enough crops in the best way possible, especially with the global, with the climate change and all that. So that's just one of the examples, but there are so many of them that I think, are quite exciting for the region.
Yes, and thank you all for your feedback from pharmaceutical industry, what we put in place in clinical development for the train-trainer program, and as well we learn and we share the lesson learned. So what I'm hearing is that there is things that happening in different countries or some project, but what I'm not hearing is how can we share with others the lesson learned, the best practice, and also try not to reinvent a wheel, So if something is working, how can we apply and deploy this across African country? That would be one of my questions as just Wilma. Okay, but let's just continue to question 3.
Can I add one more thing on question 2, which was based on finance? Because you've got these UN Sustainable Development Goals. This is really a macro level, but I think AI and economics is such a big impact on Africa, and the whole idea of price setting and aggregate demand and some of the things that can and need to be improved through AI are important. And so looking at that SDG and the economic outcome of it, I think that's something that's really going to be looked at in the next 5 years to see, in the sustainability sense, how is this AI development going to impact the economics? And that will trickle down to all of the financial monitors and regulations. So that's an important thing just to keep an eye on.
Yes, really important. Thank you, Christy. And we will continue in this direction. It's the first question. It's about how can we ensure that the benefits of AI will go not only on top, but within all community in African country. Some suggestion, recommendation, things that we may I'm okay. Some of you may have followed all roundtable in French, but today for our English speaker, we would like also to come back to those questions and get from you as experts some recommendation, things that we really need to take into account potentially. Can you start, maybe, Mohamed? What do you think? How can we ensure that AE will benefit to everyone, not just one kind of people or one country in Africa, all African people all over the world?
Oh wow! I think some sort of R&D is required, and I'm gonna go the cost to run AI. Let's go on the most popular one, ChatGPT, as an example, right? I mean, we're talking trillions for operations of setting up a data center for doing things like this, and we are also talking a daily cost of millions, right? I've read somewhere that it's 15 million. You know, don't quote me on this, but it's millions on a daily cost to operate. So, someone like me, we are looking at the third wave of AI that's gonna find a way to make it cost efficient. Then and only then, all of us would be able to have, you know, these types of operations and create those opportunities to make sure that no one is excluded. But as of right now, you are doing it on somebody's program was designed, right? So, my mind went there directly simply because, you know, for us to have something like a chat GPT for our region that I understand, let's say, I don't know, Swahili, I'm making this up now. You know, it's very costly, very, very costly. So the way to do it, I think R&D to make sure that we bring in a more cost efficient, you know, AI system infrastructure.
Okay. Just to give you also potentially some thought, we spend a lot of time on education, okay? And in some of the countries that I visit, and I spend time in Africa, so mainly in the English part, in Ghana or South Africa, and in the village, you know, how can we ensure that all the people can get access really and benefit about what we are doing with AI? That's really my concern, you know,
Okay.
not
So,
stop or
okay.
in the big country, but really in the village. So again, think about really from my expertise, it's really the trainer. It's having some ambassador. It's really to communicate to those people also and give them also some structure and access. So really think about this because when we talk about benefits, for me, it's an inclusive vision, not just for some people. So maybe, Iman, you want to add something on this?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. I do hear from where Mohamed is coming from, though. So just few aspects here, and I had the privilege to be part of both education panels through this conference. And in fact, one of the key elements that I personally keep highlighting is the notion of access. And access has several dimensions to it. By access, we also hear equity, right? Getting that possibility to every single person. And this would definitely require more than just the technological aspect of it, but also what are the policies that we need to put in place to make this happen. So on the level of what we could do for access, right? Here, some of the proposal would essentially rely on the collaborations between different actors. And when I say actors, governmental and non-governmental organizations, both public and private sectors, including and highlighting the effort of the NGOs, nonprofit organization, and civil society. This could be through some of the current programs that are already within the region to to help with digital literacy, to help with enhancing peace in the region, because this will lead to that, right? So the more our people would learn about these aspects of the technology and how to use AI and how they can access it, the better it would be for their own social and economic development. So the first and foremost, this is not a one-person effort. The second part is relying on training and learning. And it's not training one person, it's essentially a network effect, right? So we will have this notion of ambassadors or one network in one region, and then they will be training each other. These are nothing really new. We're not reinventing the wheel, as we say. It's things that have been ongoing, and they have been ongoing for different sensitive topics, including, right, access to water, right? So these are very, very expanded within the region. As of the technology aspect and the access to technology is a challenge even in the United States. Not every single region has access to it. And when we debate this, even here, we always think about the technology readiness, access, etc. So those are 2 points. The other part would be is to leverage the current startups that we have. So there are different startups that are now present within Africa, right? Many of them have expanded globally. I do mention more what is happening in Tunisia because I'm in direct connection with that, right? But today we have Tunisian startups that expanded globally, right? And some of them are present within the Boston and Cambridge area or the San Francisco area, but they still not as known within our continent, right? Similarly, we have heard about different programs like Noor, for instance, in the previous panel about education. They have tailored basically the use of the platform using Arabic for it, etc. That is from Morocco, for instance, if I recall well the present. So there are different points here that we could leverage, and I'm very confident. Yesterday for the cybersecurity here, we had very talented Amadou yesterday presented a very good platform to leverage technological innovation and share it. How could we today, we in the digital cluster, make this happen? It's by essentially promoting what they are doing and maybe looking for a way to collaborate with local nonprofits, right? Because we understand time is also money and it requires resources, but we could leverage what we have. So this is a starting point, right? And it could be done at a smaller scale, and then we could take it to the next level. So that is like a way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Iman. And I will just add, if we can also maybe take into account what locally people are doing. Some associations are doing things. We don't know about this. We don't take them as example, and we don't label what they are doing. So maybe sometime it would be nice. I heard that you came from US, but maybe it could be locally a good thing to take the time to look at what people are doing and how can we support them to really leverage and share the learning within African country. Thank you very much. And exception because I know I'm talking a lot and I'm moving fast, but maybe someone want to add something before we move to the next question. Christy?
I like what Iman said about collaboration, because if you look at, I have friends that are based in Singapore that have hooked up with Palo Alto Networks, for example, in California. And so you really can get cross-cultural, cross-global collaboration on this and take the expertise from the US, from the UK, from Europe, and then collaborate because you really, when you get into security professionals, I'll drill down to that specifically, the continent has the fastest growing workforce in the world. And yet, just like in the US and elsewhere, there is a shortage of security professionals. This is a global phenomenon. So if there was a way to capture the growing workforce and the very young workforce that exists in Africa and marry that up with let's do a global collaboration on getting them up to par on security issues, then you could focus on, particularly as was mentioned, cybersecurity needs, both in Africa and globally, and that would be a great achievement.
Yes, I like this idea also. Thank you, Christy. So we will move to the next one. We are a short roundtable, but we have some time. So what are the ethical and legal challenges related to AI in Africa, and how can we overcome them? So from your expertise, your knowledge, what would be the key challenge from an ethical point of view and the legal point of view? You already mentioned a lot of things about the cybersecurity, Christy, but maybe you want to expand a bit more?
Certainly, there's a couple of things going on with AI, and there's the concern about automation. You may have heard the story that there has to be within the legal community, due diligence and ethical standards. So let's start with the legal community first. There were two lawyers, you may have heard of this story, that basically had Gen AI help them write a legal brief and did not do their due diligence in proofing. And so there were cases cited in the brief that did not exist. They were fake. And this was discovered, and then they had to go before the bar, and they had sanctions brought against them. And the bottom line is, the judge had said, this is a tool, and this is what Mohammed brought up. It's a tool, just like a calculator would be. It's a tool. So you have to, even if you use that as the basis of your research, you always have to have the human element, the proof and the due diligence. So in the legal sector, time is money, and there's always looking for ways to automate and research and things. But the human element within law, regardless of the country, has to be steadfast, and it cannot be overtaken by these LLM products. You really have to make sure that you proof what is developed for accuracy, etc. And then in terms of the ethics, again, looking at global examples of this, the idea of what is being fed into the algorithms. And so you really have ethics tied with bias, and this may have been raised a little bit earlier in the conference, but there's a huge gender and race bias within the algorithms generally worldwide, and that would apply anywhere. And so the information that's put out is only as good as what's put in, and as accurate as what's put in. So, the ethics behind, first of all, deep fakes, and also within some of the systems that are using surveillance, there's a lot of errors being made when people are actually arrested or accused of doing things, and they've actually got the wrong person based on perhaps inaccurate facial recognition, which has happened in an important case in the UK. So you really have to make sure that from an ethical and bias standpoint, you're going for transparency and accuracy in what the developers are actually putting into the algorithms. And this will apply both to Africa and globally.
Thank you, Christy. I will pause for a time and just ask to Benjamin, if you are online, you want to share some words from Our Excellency? Benjamin Kruger, yes.
No,
yeah.
Thank you, Gerard. Really listening to all of you, especially Dan, Christy, and Iman and Mohammed, it just clicked me to one of the points which is we discussed recently on, the UN is discussing about digitalization and the governance, global governance. Because they found that really AI is among, of course, in the term of that digitalization is a big item. But they found that if nobody is really getting to, it's not like governance, like governing people to do this, but things had to be done. And fortunately, it's chaired by the Rwanda and Sweden. And recently, I was just with a group of people on cybersecurity, and we discussed about it. This is already some of the subject we discussed some time ago when I was Assistant Secretary General for the Global Security in the UN. And we are talking about many years ago before, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence. But it's a very, very, very important subject you are raising, Christy, because we don't pay attention because we don't know. And I think awareness is key. How do we make sure that there's information accessible to everybody, but this information can be understood by everybody? Gerard, you're asking a question about how AI can be benefit to the community, but how the community, even the intellectual people, when they hear about artificial intelligence, you look at the risk and everything which you hear in the media and what we see coming. But how do we make it simple, in a simple language that people can say, oh, there is a benefit on that? And I think all this session we heard about education, we heard about agriculture and environment and health sector. There are a lot of information provided for Africa and for communities, which can be definitely start by today. But how do we make it accessible to the policymakers, to the people who are involved in, getting data and also digitalizing those data? Those are the simple questions we have to ask ourselves before getting to the higher dialogue on the risk of AI and so on and so on. But just focus on information, access, data, and be provided in a simple language one can everybody understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Excuse me,
Baranga.
your name.
Baranga. Why is so difficult to say? Baranga.
Okay, thank you, Hem.
Okay.
So, yes, and if we go back for training, and from my expertise, what you mentioned is really, I was in auditing also, so international auditing, and spent a lot of time in Asia, where as auditor, you are there for research and development and look and make finding and prepare FDA and all these things. And I have to spend more time in Asia to really explain to people what do we mean by the risk and train people to really address those factors. So I think that the same thing for everything related to ethical and legal part. It's about train people to really spend time locally to make them understood the risk, to make them understood how to address those risks and what does it mean. And then it will facilitate later on whatever we want to do. I just want to stop because I'm trying to catch up with Benjamin, but apparently he's not there. So
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry.
you are here, Benjamin. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Apologies. I was working with the ambassador. We think that she's in Washington at the moment, and we think that her U.S. Setup, her firewall is not allowing. That's the reason she can't access the audio. So apologies for that. I'd just like to say I was looking over the ambassador's prepared remarks and her questions, and this discussion has anticipated a lot of what she was asking, including privacy and even inclusivity concerns. So very glad that this discussion has touched on that, and the ambassador was able to hear a part of it for briefly, but I've been taking notes that I'll pass along to her. So thank you. But also, and what you were just speaking of, the sort of educational challenges to ensure that a skill set for understanding AI and for harnessing AI exists in Mali. But I think, if I may ask a question on the ambassador's behalf, I'd like to press that issue just a little bit. Given the needs, the educational needs in Mali, which are so dire in some ways and so basic, what are the steps to ensuring that those competences exist at scale in the long term? Like what might Mali do in terms of national policy to set itself on a path toward having those toward genuinely having that skill set and being able to harness AI?
Yes, that's a great question. Iman, maybe you want to talk about this?
Thank you very much. And Gerard, thank you for sharing these questions, and to Her Excellency Ambassador of the US to Mali for her key remarkable points. So I'm not, of course, from Mali. I'm Tunisian. But I do understand from benchmarks a little bit what we could do for the African regions and how we could harness AI within the region. So I'll talk more about what we could do generally in Africa, and of course, each of all the countries. There would be a little bit of tailoring, but the good news is, at least coming from Tunisia, we do have a lot of collaboration, especially in technology, and most of our companies do work very closely with Mali. So we have that great connections, and I had the opportunity to collaborate myself with several organizations in there. But in terms of the part of education, so I will be addressing that questions first, and then we'll go to the ethical part, right? So in terms of the educational part, I think the key point is, first of all, is to get that awareness that AI is there, because many people might be encountering artificial intelligence but not realizing that they are using it. Again, here we're talking about people who got access to it. So because we understand that not everybody within the country, if we're talking about Mali or other specific regions, or countries within Africa, not everybody have access. So we need to highlight that aspect. As we think about one person or one household or one organization that got that access, many of them are using it on a way. And this is where the awareness of what artificial intelligence is, how it could be leveraged, having key tutorial, not very long, not technical, but with simple examples of with daily activities, how it could help us with accessing to the bank, for instance, or getting a service from the government, or accessing to transportation, healthcare, others that are connected to e-services in general, right? So simplifying, using terms that are not that technologically advanced will definitely help. And again, here I would rise again the point of collaboration with local nonprofits, in addition to the government and to the private sector, because those are the one who would know better. So it doesn't exclude the international or regional collaborations, but we need both of them to help get that awareness. Once the awareness is there, then we will be exposing them to the local solutions that are in there. And the good news again here, in Mali and in other African countries, we do have several apps that are using artificial intelligence and relying on it. Not necessarily Gen AI, but mainly looking at classic types of algorithms to Mohammed points, supervised and unsupervised learning for facial recognitions, or to detect some or to get of where is my car, where is my dog, can I recognize that? So there are a few applications. Also, anti-fraud applications are present, and some of them for, I know that there are a lot of banking activities in Mali, as a matter of fact, and what is also used is the content management system, and these content management systems, they do rely on artificial intelligence. So we could then expand on that, right? So that is the second phase. And the third phase would be actually to open it up to how we could develop more technology and dependency. So there will be more advanced types of courses and local trainings about the technological aspect. And this is how we could then create innovative ways and even expand more. And this will help actually expand. I'll just give two examples that have happened, not in Africa, but in developing countries. One of them is Mexico, right? So in Mexico, they have used like artificial intelligence algorithms. I give the example of Clínica de Azura in Mexico, and they use it to analyze data and improve healthcare outcomes for thousands of people at risk with diabetes. So it helped with the prevention of certain diseases. This could be leveraged to other diseases within the region. And there are great willingness from different international organizations out there that we could also take into consideration. There is another example that is in India that helped consumers detect which of the grocery shops would offer the most convenient price that would fit their budget. So kind of a recommendation based on what they are using already. These are like simple to leverage, and we could have them within our region. But this connects back to a crucial point that Mohammed wrote since the beginning. We need to have data as well to make it. So after the 3 steps, we will go back to the data, and that will be my transition to the point where we have the importance of ethics and the quality of the data. So the outcome of any algorithm or any technology in general is what is the input that we put into it, right? So the better the quality, the best. Of course, we need to start somewhere, and we could enhance the quality as we are advancing. We could have people working on enhancing the quality of data. So that could be actually one thing on its own. And there are some international agreements that we could think about it, such as the Data Governance Act. I did mention this in other parts of this conference. We could use the GDPR as well. Most of the corporations and organizations now across the continent use it. So allowing our people to know that they exist, that there is an essential part of what is the data and how it is used and its meaning as well would help with the quality of the output and would guarantee to a certain extent a better outcome that is fair, equitable, etc. But it comes back to really helping people to understand what it is and bringing the awareness to the table. I hope I have addressed both questions with that, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Iman. One of the things that I just want to add is maybe to take into consideration the cultural aspect when you want to create awareness and when you want to really engage people in what we want to do. That's also potentially for me one of the challenges when we talk about ethical and legal challenges. It's at the local level in each country, within African country. There is also those aspects that we need to consider. So I will really ask to everybody to take this aspect into consideration when we make policy at the global level. We don't consider also how can we embark people in this journey, because we don't consider all the barriers as well. So that will be from my side, if you allow.
May I just...
Yes, Benjamin?
Just a word of gratitude. Thank you, Iman, for your remarks. Very, very enriching discussion. This is just fascinating. And Girard as well for your comments. If I can just put a plug in, the United States government launched what it calls the AI Connect program, part of whose goal is to empower developing countries to participate in what is already an ongoing global discussion on AI policy, right? So there are these different supranational agreements, and of course each country is having their own internal debate. But the idea of this was to specifically bring in countries from perhaps the periphery of the debate and make sure that their voices are heard and make sure that their equities, as we say, are being represented as a standard policy begins to take shape. So I invite everyone to go to ai.gov. That's just ai.gov, and I'll put it in the chat. That's the U.S. government's one-stop shop for all sorts of programs. It's the AI Connect, but we also have the National AI Initiative, which includes a large database of different resources on research and development, technical standards, workforce and skills, regulatory approaches, and even non-regulatory, and then issues touching on security and defense and international engagement. So just to plug for, on Ambassador Korhonen's behalf, for some of the resources available from the U.S. government. Thank you again.
Thank you, Benjamin. This is really great information, and I hope everybody will get access and take the link. One of the things is also to really have some ambassador to in local region to really communicate with people and let them know that they are allowed and they should make their voice heard. We have
Absolutely.
Yes, we have still 10 minutes, so we will go quickly and directly to the last question for everyone. Is yes, Amara, I will take your question in a moment. We spent just 2 minutes or 5 minutes on the last question. It's about what are the opportunities for regional collaboration to drive AI innovation in Africa. What do you see? What do you think? 2 minutes by speaker, and then we will go back to some question in the chat room. So let's start with Mohamed, if you don't mind.
Sure. The opportunities for regional collaborations. So this is one of them, right? This Syn Africa initiative is a very, very positive one. I mean, good God, it's 10 p.m. in the middle of an airport. I'm falling asleep here, and I'm still here. That's because I truly believe that this is how we could collaborate and come together to create opportunities for the region as a whole. Beyond that, I mean, kind of having some sort of platforms, right? It goes back to what Benjamin was saying earlier about the U.S. Programs, having some sort of AI education program that includes both online earning and then partnership with tech companies. I think that would also be there. So the third piece that I would add is some sort of repository of knowledge, right? And projects that people can partake on, because I think it was Iman who mentioned you cannot do it alone, right? So, but if we have some sort of repository, whether online preferably, whereby people could consult and say, hey, by the way, I have these projects, I need somebody who's good with digital signal processing, as an example, to come on. Or it could just be, I have this project and I would like to deploy or test it in this region. So kind of that would foster some sort of collaborations among regions.
Yes, fully agree. Thank you, Mohamed. Iman, if you want to share with us your thoughts about how can we leverage the innovation and collaboration in Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe I will build up on what Mohamed just mentioned and prize this venue, right? Because this is a great starting point to connect all of us. And as a matter of fact, today, CEO, with two of the people I have interacted, we already have scheduled meeting to follow up and to build up and remain active. I don't want to advance things, but I'm confident that in the sessions that is just after this, we will have a lot of takeaways and some great news upcoming. But what we could pragmatically do is, first of all, maybe continue to share what is already available, right? Because taking that awareness about what we already have and building up things on it is crucial. We don't need always to start from the beginning. We are in an era where we curate things, where we build from what we already have, and that will optimize our timing. So the first step to me is if maybe post this summit, we will have the opportunity to share some key resources that are available, name couple of the organizations from Africa or other countries, because this collaboration is within the region, but is outside the region, so we know about it. It only because we need to be aware of the timing as well, and everybody is working, and we get back after this excitement to our day-to-day lives. So all it takes maybe is to share 3 links, right, about a business, an organization, a nonprofit operating in the era of artificial intelligence, is somehow connected to Africa, or opportunities such as the ones Benjamin have shared with us today, right? So that could be a very important part. A second point that I'm looking forward to it is maybe a reflection on what we have seen today during these 2 days, actually, and maybe some key projects. I'm optimistic, but I would say top 3 ideas to raise awareness of artificial intelligence in Africa, considering the diversity and the diverse cultural aspects that we already have within the region itself. Maybe we have one for Northern Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, Eastern Africa, something like that. So we could cover the richness of our diversity. Because it's a positive point that we have that chance to be so diverse within our own region, and that could be a great part. And after that, all I really hope for is once we got these 2 points, to see every one of these participants continue to elaborate on what we have started today, and that is the key part. So I'm looking at the pragmatic aspects that would not cost too much money and also not too much time. So if we start already with these 2 aspects, it's key. And I cannot not mention, right, the importance of research and development, right? Research and development is key to innovation. And if we somehow could find a way to boost research and development and advance practical research within the region, because artificial intelligence is for agriculture, is for art. There is a lot of artificial intelligence for culture and art, right? Artificial intelligence for health, for education, for all of it. So if we could do that together, that will be tremendous. Thank you.
Thank you, Imen. Christy.
So we're winding down in time here. So I'm going to drill down on the cybersecurity front, because I would like the takeaway to be, the regional collaboration is so critical, both regional and global. But keep in mind that AI is not in a silo. There is a cybersecurity aspect to it. So I just briefly want to go through the 5 points that I had thought about for cybersecurity, and then address them in terms of collaboration. So lack of tested security measures, the fact that the majority of African-based fintech companies don't have cybersecurity expertise, this idea of cyber vulnerability because you're not doing security checks before you would release products to the market. So that can be worked on a global scale, again, with other countries who are working on this as well. Digital literacy, which we've raised earlier as well, and this idea of as mobile money comes in and more people have apps, are they aware of the risks that go hand in hand with that? The cost of data, and the thing that's happening is you need to regularly update your digital devices. And if that is not taught, if there's not education on that, then people will turn off the updates to patch and improve, which would be, of course, AI based. And then you're at risk of not having fixes, having bugs, and being hacked. So the 4th point would be, there's a lot of outsourcing of digital infrastructure in Africa. And so the idea is make some of it more homegrown. Don't try not to get into the situation where so much is outsourced, but make sure that it's within the continent, so you're not at the mercy of foreign entities as AI develops, and AI together with cybersecurity. And then the last, which we've touched on with education, is the lack of security professionals, including also the lack of perhaps AI algorithm developers. This global problem with the security workforce, and I've mentioned before this idea that you have a very strong workforce development going on in the continent, and you have a very young workforce, but they are not given the opportunity to learn about the security profession. And so if the education can drill down on that, because of the fact that AI goes hand in hand with cybersecurity, they really cannot be separated, because AI has all of these benefits to help with cybersecurity, but the other side of the coin is the hackers are using AI to improve their cybercrime. So all of that on balance is how I would look at the opportunity for collaboration with this cybersecurity threat in mind.
Thank you very much, Christy, Iman, Mohamed. We are at the end of our time. Apparently, we have still 5 minutes for the big conclusion. I just want to address some questions, but I cannot see any question in the chat room. So Amara, you told me don't forget to answer to the question, please. So can you just give me a question that we can address? Because remember, we have only 1 hour, 10 minutes or 20 minutes for this roundtable. We cannot cover all the things that have been done in 2 days, but I think our experts provide us with some recommendation, some perspective, and I want also to thank all of you for playing the game and provide us with some feedback. So if you have a real question, please share this in the chat room. No? Okay, so I will turn up for the closeout to Miss Mbaranga. I will be able to do that, I think. Before we close, I want to thank all of you. Thanks all our people, more than 100 people over the phone for the English session. So thank you very much. And I think we highlight good points. And there will be a lot of things that we can collect for future work, and also for the CDA and the organizer of this event today. A lot of learning, and thank you very much from Benjamin for sharing with us in the chat room the link. Amara, can you just use the chat room? No question from your side. Thank you. I hope we address some of your burning issue. And if something that we have missed, we are sorry, but because we were short on time to really oversee everything. So Benjamin is telling us that on behalf of the ambassador, thank you. Thank you to the panelists, the attendee. This was our pleasure. And myself, I want to thank all of you.
Something.
Well,
Thank you for having us.
yes. And
Can I say one last thing before we close, Amara?
yes, you have 3 minutes.
The subject, the theme of today was artificial intelligence at the service of development in Africa. I just want to remind that we're in 2023, we have 7 years to evaluate all the world, but I'm now talking about Africa, about SDGs. Did we reach SDGs? If we can always think about reaching SDGs within artificial intelligence, because when we set up the summit on SDGs, nobody was talking about the AI. But from what I listened today, it's amazing to see how the SDGs can be reached as quickly if we add that dimension of artificial intelligence. So think about each subject we talk about: education, health, energy, water sector. If you compare some of the countries, we have a table, like if you compare Singapore, for example, with a country A, C, Z in Africa, it's amazing how water sector is so much advanced there because they use this technology and they use AI. So let's say that the takeout of this session, we link this one with 2030 reaching SDGs. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
To someone from the organization. Amara,
okay.
from you?
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank all of you. We are very happy to see you among us. Thank you, everybody. We have learned a lot from you, especially education and AI. Thank you, Mohamed Kante. Thank you, everybody. And happy to see you in the future. OK, great. Bonjour tout le monde. Nous allons continuer avec les événements. Nous remercions Madame Baranga, elle est ASD Department. Nous la remercions pour sa présence. Nous remercions aussi Rachna pour sa participation, ainsi que tout le monde. Nous allons continuer avec les activités après la pause. Nous allons observer une pause de 30 minutes. Nous y reviendrons à partir de 15h. À partir de 15h, nous allons continuer avec les activités à 15h. Nous allons avoir la démonstration de la plateforme NBA par le VP Christian Gimel. Nous allons aussi avoir des démonstrations de la solution Iwati par M. Kante. Voilà, donc, M. Diawara, si vous avez quelques ajouts, nous allons...
Oui, en fait, je voudrais remercier tout le monde, mais je pense que tu l'as fait. Et puis, Willema, en tant qu'ambassadrice du cluster du Africa, elle a bien modéré ce panel avec brio. Mais on avait notre présidente d'honneur qui participait à ce panel. Donc, c'est top. En tout cas, merci à son excellence et à Benjamin qui a fait le job. Elle avait un problème de sécurité pour se connecter à la plateforme. Bon, souvent, c'est comme ça. Hein, ça reste américain. Il faut qu'on utilise leur solution. Donc, quand on dérobe à la règle, c'est compliqué, mais on en a rigolé tout à l'heure avec son excellence et Benjamin. Mais une fois de plus, et ça nous montre à quel point il faut qu'on utilise nos solutions, il faut qu'on les mette en avant, qu'on utilise nos compétences et après de voir comment on va collaborer avec eux. Donc, c'est pourquoi sa présence aux côtés de Mme Baranga et de vous tous, cela démontre la qualité de participants qu'on a pour cette table ronde. Je voudrais saluer mon frère Mohamed qui est très bon, qui est de la famille et qui est très brillant. Et une fois de plus encore, il a été disponible. Mais dans Christy et puis tous les autres, mais cher ami Imen, je ne sais pas comment tu fais, mais en tout cas, tu prends d'énergie, bravo. Maintenant, 30 minutes de pause, moi je trouve que ça va faire trop parce que les gens sont fatigués. Depuis ce matin, on les retient. Ce qu'on va faire, vous allez mettre une vidéo en anglais et puis la vidéo de musique. Et puis, c'est de voir si Fuseni Dambélé est là avec nous, qu'il démarre tout de suite. Et après, pour Christian Jumelé, il est également coincé. Je pense qu'il est en Malaisie avec l'histoire de la Palestine et d'Israël. Quelques vols ont été changés. Donc, Christian ne pourra pas le faire, mais c'est sa collaboratrice qui a été d'ailleurs tout à l'heure sur la panel, sur la table ronde environnement qui va faire cette démonstration. Donc, c'est d'aller de façon pragmatique pour qu'on libère les gens. Ça fait 2 jours qu'on les a. On ne va pas les fatiguer avec 30 minutes de pause. Vous mettez quelques vidéos vite fait et puis ça passe. Et on essaie de contacter le deux pour qu'ils fassent cette démo et qu'on commence à passer à la conclusion pour aller vite sur ça. Bravo, Willema. Et je ne savais pas que tu avais ce talent de modératrice, mais c'est génial. C'est ça le cluster du Africa. Et nous remercions vraiment nos invités, l'ambassadrice des États-Unis, Mme Baranga, depuis hier. Elles sont là. C'est ça la puissance des femmes. Lorsqu'elles sont engagées, elles sont vraiment dedans. Malgré son agenda chargé, depuis les États-Unis, les problèmes de connectivité, elle n'a pas arrêté. Je voyais à chaque fois qu'elle tentait de se connecter à la plateforme, ça a refusé. Je la voyais, son nom qui venait, qui repartait. J'ai dit, waouh, celle-là, elle ne veut pas lâcher l'affaire. Mais c'est ça la puissance des femmes. Donc, on a besoin de vous, madame. Venez au cluster, venez nous rejoindre encore. Et merci, Madame Baranga, d'être cette leader qui essaie toujours de fédérer, qui essaie toujours d'accompagner. J'ai écouté, mon anglais n'est pas terrible, moi je suis francophone, vous savez, souvent quand on est de ce côté, de l'autre côté, on a du mal à s'exprimer en anglais, mais nous allons promettre d'être bons dans ça dans les jours à venir. Mais le plus important pour moi, c'est le message, il est passé. Et ces personnes, rien que leur présence, ça fait passer beaucoup de messages. Bravo encore une fois de plus. Il y a Dr Ali Kalahan qui m'a dit de présenter ses excuses, mais il a été appelé pour des raisons nationales où on lui a demandé de venir. Donc souvent, nos participants sont tous des personnalités importantes. Certains ont des engagements et d'autres sont des patrons dans leur domaine. Ils peuvent se permettre. Et aujourd'hui, on a vu Benjamin qui a vraiment assuré pour son excellence. C'est ça une équipe. L'ambassadrice, elle était là avec nous, mais peut-être pas elle-même physiquement, mais elle était là, son esprit et son message est passé. Merci à tout le monde. Merci infiniment. Donc, vous pouvez mettre la musique le temps que les gens puissent se soulager un petit peu. Et derrière, on va enchaîner avec cette présentation. Merci, que Dieu vous préserve. Merci.
Merci beaucoup.
Et Fousseni est déjà là. Donc, Fousseni, toi, tu vas commencer directement le temps que de l'autre côté soit prêt. En tout cas, Fousseni, c'est vraiment un champion, un jeune Malien qui est en train de faire cela. Et nous avons souhaité que cela soit fait par nos petits frères qui sont en train d'innover, qui sont des génies dans leur domaine, qui ont besoin de soutien. Mais je pense que Mohamed Kanté et moi, nous allons discuter en privé sur beaucoup de projets. Et nous allons échanger avec Imen et avec Mme Baranga. Les discussions sont en cours. On va voir comment nous allons accompagner toutes ces jeunesses maliennes, évidemment, mais comment les institutions qui sont avec nous, les personnalités aussi vont nous soutenir. En tout cas, bravo. Et Fousseni, je pense que tu vas être prêt. Ils vont mettre quelques vidéos, etc., pour soulager un petit peu l'audience. Et après, derrière, je pense que tu peux nous montrer ces solutions et tout ce que tu es en train de nous mettre aujourd'hui au Mali. Moi-même, j'utilise une des solutions d'intelligence artificielle de Face ID que tu nous as mis à disposition. On est fiers et on consomme toujours malien et africain, évidemment, avec plaisir. Je pense que Djibril a quelques soucis parce qu'apparemment, Jacqueline, je vois que tu as un mot d'écoute. C'est peut-être de voir avec Joël s'il est là. Fousseni est déjà prêt. Mais peut-être, Fousseni, je pense que c'est de te donner la main pour que tu puisses démarrer ta présentation. Joël Zeid, qui est notre chargé de presse, est chargé de modérer cette table ronde de démonstration avec Djibril Mbo. Moi, Djibril, je ne sais pas, il doit avoir des soucis. Je pense qu'on a beaucoup de problèmes d'électricité aujourd'hui au Mali, beaucoup de coupures un peu partout. Fousseni, on espère que de chez toi, il n'y aura pas ce problème, mais ensemble, on va y arriver en tout cas. Et on va demander à tout le monde de comprendre qu'actuellement, il y a énormément de problèmes de coupure d'électricité au Mali. Donc, Fousseni, pendant sa démonstration, peut avoir le même souci que nous tous, nous sommes en train d'avoir depuis ce matin. Mais nous nous forçons à trouver les moyens d'être présents avec vous et de pouvoir faire cette démonstration. Donc, Fousseni, je pense que tu peux démarrer déjà à travailler sur cela parce que Djibril semble avoir un souci.